what were you asking me?
So I was asking you, what is it? What when you close your eyes, when you think of this project, where do you see it going? What's
Oh, do you mean, okay, so we're talking about the master show just now, not the final full thing.
Yes, the master show, the master show.
Okay, so the idea of it was to sort of show the process of what we'd been kind of trying to do and stuff like that and things, and then to also, so with the final thing is kind of working towards building something that's around 6 or 7 characters and stuff, which have been developed sort of separately. We want to bring the characters together, form a story around that and things is what the final thing's going to be, but I really want to start with the characters because that's the thing that sort of interests me.
Yeah.
So with this I want to sort of explore the characters basically.
Yeah.
But apparently, okay, so it really seems that, I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of out of practice with this whole thing. I mean, I haven't actually picked up a camera, I don't know this in a year, so a lot of today has been kind of like figuring out how to do things again, I suppose, as well. And then the other thing, I guess, is I think to explore a character there definitely needs to be some kind of shape to it or something. I mean, a lot of what we're sort of doing is it's not interesting and stuff. I mean, it's not completely, like, it's not boring or whatever, but it's not as much as it could be and stuff. There needs to be something that's going to properly platform the stuff that we've done, and it might be applying some kind of dramatic shape or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. So out of everything,
Thoughts? Anyone? Before?
If you really want the thing to take shape, one of the good things for getting characters to take shape is to not just have have scenarios. You need to have an end point. You have to have as much as it pains me, you need a linear plot. Even if it's just within the scenes that you're doing, you need this happens and this happens and this happens. Because as good at improvisation as anyone is, essentially improvisation is just a word that we normally use for the conversation we have every day being recorded. It's like basically just do what you would naturally do, and a lot of what people would naturally do is unfortunately not moving towards any great character development.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just my 2 cents. But
I noticed today there was a lot of emphasis on, as your character, go about your daily lives. So obviously an endpoint for the characters would have been helpful for the actors doing them. Though the scenes filmed today did go very well. Out of today, what would you say was the best thing and the worst thing of the experience being a director and filming and all that?
It's more like with this particular thing, I guess it's that how do I put it? I think you're spot on in that improvisation in itself and maybe interaction in itself with nothing else is kind of dry and stuff. Definitely. I think that the problem is that when I started this, the original intention was to build up something where there very much is going to be intention and shape and end goals and objectives and super objectives and all of these things and stuff where it's going to actually lead to somewhere. And this is more of a place to generate material. So it's sort of like once I built the overall structure for the whole story and stuff, which I kind of have at least a skeleton for and things, it would be like putting it's like, okay, so this is what needs to happen in this scene, this is what needs to happen in this scene. We're going to put these characters together with that scene idea around it, and then with that happening, it's more the improv is a way of generating the dialogue and stuff on almost more on a sort of surface level, and then it's the actual writing of the characters, which we've done in depth, which is going to inform that thing. 'Cause that's the other thing that's interests me is that so that's the other thing that was intrigued me with the project, is having one where each character is written in collaboration with the actor and stuff like that and things. And maybe you can say other people do this in a different way and stuff like that as well.
I know people who do exactly this, and the issue that they always find is actually the issue that you're finding right now, which is that it's very difficult to get people to improvise things which are not dry. Yes.
Okay, so
What was the question?
my first question is, we'll be right back after this call. Do you want to quickly let them in?
Question is,
Yeah.
Someone take the expensive
That's
stuff
fine.
from me.
what was the first question?
So first question is,
Yeah.
Well, you've got a degree show that you need to make a sort of behind the scenes sort of bit for. So what is your plan for your degree show?
Well, I'm trying to figure that out just now
Yeah.
and stuff because as we were sort of discussing, as we kind of discussing before, I'm just putting characters in things, hoping they would maybe developed enough isn't the case. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Need to work that out.
Okay. In a minute, I'll ask you again just what your plan is. We'll try and get a good through of that. I think the other one was okay as well, but just.
Okay. If you ask me what the plan is, I'm just gonna have to say I don't know. I'm gonna have to work that out tonight. I'll just stay.
Okay. What about asking about characters? Would you be able to answer not like specific stuff about the characters, but like working with the actors to make the characters?
Sorry, just you got sniped in, so I thought I might as well.
You just do one.
Okay.
That's good. Okay.
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 So we're still recording.
Yeah. So, tell me about the style. So you've been working with individual actors to come up with the characters for your movie, like separately from each other. So tell me about that, the process. Like take for example Kai. We've been working together today on Kai's character Eli. We did a sit-down interview with the character and with Eli and with Kai themselves. So what was the process you went through with Kai to come to the character of Eli?
Sorry, can we cut? This is helpful just now and stuff. Can we come back to this?
There's a natural limit to how much you can drag out two characters really
Doing nothing and
talking to each other and shooting the breeze, unless you're doing something which is specifically making a point about that.
Yeah.
And those kinds of plays they don't take months to script. They
but that kind of
years.
That kind of thing is something you couldn't script like this. I don't think.
Precisely.
Yeah. And at the same time, though, giving a specific objective and a very fleshed out scenario might not focus wholly on character and things as well.
You have to have a loose plot though. Like you have to have decided on an end point and a beginning point, and you need at least one midpoint. Like there's at least one thing that has to happen during the scene that the end part cannot happen until that specific thing. Yeah. And it might not be anything major. I remember we were doing one where we were looking at like micro communications, and one of the things that the scene couldn't end until was one of my mates had a glass on the table, and he would move it to the other side of the table. It was literally just drink, put down, and it looked like the most subtle and sort of natural thing in the world for him to just drink and put it down. But as soon as we'd done that, as soon as he'd done that, everyone else in the scene knew that we were halfway through the scene. And then it was just working out the dialogue for the second half of the scene. And we knew what the end point was. And it's a lot easier to sort of, for an actor, I mean, you'll go through a couple of takes where they just rush through the scene. It's like, oh shit, we need to get to the end. We need to get to this point. But as they get more and more used to that, and as they get more and more used to each other, and sort of working together in a thing, they can regress to the point where it's like, well, I need to find out as much as I can about this person until we get to that point, and then once we get to that point, I'm then setting it up for the end part. Yeah. So you kind of at least need it doesn't need to be anything major. It doesn't need to be like this person dies at the end of this scene, or this person. It doesn't even need to be as complicated as this person enters or this person exits. It can literally be a conversation. What are they talking about? They're talking about the weather at the beginning of the conversation, and they need to eventually get to a point where they're talking about like what they're studying. And the first few times it'll be like, oh, it's raining, yeah. So what do you study? I'm an architecture student. It's like, it immediately goes to that, but then it builds, and you get, like,
the thing about doing this with actors is the actors are all going to be in the same position you're in now, which is, oh shit, what do we do? Like, how do we get this to the point where it's an actual scene that could be used in a degree show?
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't really one specific way to do that, but having an actual like plot for each scene, like this is the scene where they have coffee, or this is the scene where they're at a party and they're talking about like this, that, and the other.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I think you're right. So, the next thing is the issue with when anyone's free at the same time and stuff. I mean, I guess that would mean like essentially making a short film to make something at all and stuff like that. It doesn't have to have like be super plot based, but it's more like this happens, this happens, this happens, or it's really setting up individual scenarios and filming it in a normal sort of way, but in a way that you might as well eventually script it before you film it. If you're developing it through improvisation, which is time that we don't have, and it's also bring people together to make a short film. It's already like spinning plates. It's just no one's ever free at the same time and stuff. So yeah, but at the same time though, okay, so don't know what anyone thinks about this, and feel free to jump in, guys, if anyone wants to and stuff. So here's the thing. The degree show film doesn't have a timeline that it has to be so much. So it can be a 5 to 10 minute film. It's absolutely fine. Moreover, a 5 to 10 minute documentary kind of thing to be fine. It doesn't have to be like a full fictional film. I'm just worried if trying to make a fictional story type thing there isn't time to do it well and stuff. Yeah. And I'd rather not do it sort of badly. So it could be the case of we go all the way in that direction and I'll stay up late and come up with a really simple thing, but at least there'll be a thing that will connect as many of the characters together depending on who's free will kind of guide it. Yeah. But there will at least be something. But it's also in the case that like there isn't time to arrange a party scene. There isn't time to arrange a location to have coffee at somewhere. It has to be in people's flats, stuff like that as well. So it might have to be the case that we'll say we need to jump ahead to a point when characters already know each other. Yeah. Would probably help. And then it can be things like we're going to drink in my flat because I've broken up with someone, and the other person's like, right, we're going to get you out, and the other person's like, I want to stay home, or whatever, and then you have at least something to go on. It might still be messy, but then we're thinking about the overall plot and stuff here. I'm just kind of verbally, mentally.
It doesn't even need to be like, you don't even need to prepare it in advance. Like, if you just get there and it's like, okay, we're doing this scene, like we're doing a scene where these two people need to interact, and we need to come up with something. It's like just something to end it. Mm-hmm.
But then we go back to what happened earlier today and stuff. Yeah. We don't know if we can keep doing that for a whole week, but also then it doesn't consider the thing as a whole as well. But maybe that's, I mean, that could very much work. I mean, so it's either that, it's a mixture of that and documentary, so they can be self-contained scenes.
So like a featurette, so sort of splice interviews and behind the scenes footage with like even just random clips from scenes, so you don't even necessarily see a whole scene.
Mm-hmm. But like, that's kind of what I was thinking it might be based off of everything Julian's told me about and working with it today. Of course, it's all sort of a bit spontaneous and stuff, but I was kind of thinking it's a bit like a DVD extra or something at the moment, where we're getting pieces of the creative process as opposed to a finished product.
It's almost if you see on Virgin Mediums, like they have trailers, which is literally they'll just have the cast talking and they'll like show scenes, but like with people talking over it. So not just the dialogue, you got like random out of context lines that they think are the funniest bits or something, and just sort of that kind of. So then there's sort of the focus is more on again like the creative process and sort of documentary style and getting to know the cast and things and sort of descriptions of the characters, and then just sort of a very general idea of, and this is the sort of stuff we will be doing with like random clips.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I was going to say the other alternative is full documentary
Yeah.
and things, which I guess would be more to that, where it's like documentary plus some clips or something like that. We could go down the route of doing something like, do you guys know the film Coffee and Cigarettes?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah?
Very good.
Something like that, yeah.
I was also thinking of that.
Self-contained scenes and nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Could be a thing to go down.
Mm.
But that would need how long to prepare and film one of those if we were also writing it with interaction. Like, okay, if I went away, came up with as much as I can by myself first, and different routes that I can go down, then maybe if we worked out, we could do like 2 a day or something like that.
Yeah.
And
the major issue that we're sort of having at the moment with the creative thing is that, like, I know it's really good between the actors that neither of them really knows that much about the other person's character, but with the other people who are trying to be spontaneous, like, you kind of need to know the characters because it's like,
with you guys?
yeah,
the crew.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
with
fine.
the,
Alright.
with the crew, because it's like, if we know who the characters are, then
I'm
it's
sorry,
more,
that
it's
was
more
my bad. I
likely
was being
to
very
come up
absorbed
with
in myself
Yeah.
and
It's
why
fine.
that wasn't working.
Today's been the first day.
Yeah.
It's we've been learning to use all the equipment and stuff. It was kind of understandable we'd come in with a bit blindfolded, but
I'm pretty sure it was Alfred Hitchcock who said on the first day of filming, if you don't have to burn all of the film canisters and destroy half of the costumes, it's been a good day.
it would definitely help because obviously, even though you're the director, we're your crew, and it's our job to help you out as much as possible. So.
Oh, thank you. That's more than I usually receive. That's fantastic.
Well, I can't see inside your head, unfortunately, and that's why I was asking you, what is your goal for this? What is...
I don't know, but we'll figure it out, and step one is help and doing it as a
Yes,
team, because
but-
it will be so much... Yeah.
But that's the problem. We've done a whole day's worth of shooting, and you still don't quite know what the goal is. We need to sit down and come up with that. I think tomorrow morning, first thing, we meet up, we sit down, we have to hash this out.
Wait, he films for a whole day, doesn't know what they're going to do. What kind of person is this? What sort of film are you trying...
About every director. Like pretty much
support that info,
pretty
I
much
guess.
every director's working it out 3 weeks in.
Julian Joseph is a genius, and I believe in his vision.
You can stay.
I know that's the hardest question for you. I know me sitting here on the other side of the camera saying, what's your
Oh, no,
vision?
it's good though.
It's
obviously.
difficult, but it's compelling drama, because now we've got the opening of your video. You say, I don't know what I'm doing, and then people watch the end of the degree show.
Dun, dun, dun.
But on the other hand, it's mainly because
Maybe it's just a gif and not a loop.
It could be worse. You could be saying, I may have gone too far in a few places.
I find myself being indecisive quite a lot, and I can understand being a director. It can be quite difficult to, especially with a project so spontaneous, you don't really want to reel it in because you want to create this amazing, natural thing. But at the same time, you have to think to yourself.
Well, I'm doing it in from a position of inexperience,
Yeah,
which is
but that's why I'm asking you, what does Julian Joseph want? And that's what you need to ask yourself.
Mm-hmm. Again, as I say, these are two separate questions a little bit. One for the master show thing, and one for the final thing. And
Yeah,
stuff,
no.
in
I'm
some
asking
ways.
for the master show.
Well, the master show in some ways is looking like something that might be more spontaneous and stuff. With the final thing being more like a written thing, because I did sort of see the script, the final thing being like a script you can read and stuff. Like it will hopefully have natural sounding dialogue and stuff like that, you know, but also play to intentions, but themes, different things, and develop a scene and not be rambly for the sake of seeming realistic. That's
So-
not a weird thing to say.
In a sense, for the degree show, what you want to show off is the creative process behind creating the spontaneous scenes that will create the natural dialogue in your actual scripted movie later on. You want to sort of have dry runs with the characters, just see how they mesh, so that later when you're writing the actual script, you have more natural dialogue and interactions than if you were to just sit down and pen it over a weekend. That's sort of your goal.
Definitely with the last bit was sort of the idea.
Yeah.
And, with something like this is always the idea and stuff, I guess.
I'm helping you out. That's what the thing can be about. It's you don't just have to say the goal of my degree show is
Just
to,
to show how droll.
is to show the process in creating the spontaneous dialogue, and that's what your goal is. So you look into the camera, you say it's about making spontaneous dialogue. We splice that in with the scene at the table, or Kai's scene, you know, meeting the sculpture guy, and some other scenes we film, and it's sort of a look
Okay.
into the mind of Julian Joseph. And
Ask me again then. Ask me again.
oh, okay. Don't go. Okay. So, what is your goal with the degree show video?
Okay, don't know just yet. This thing might change and stuff like that, but it might be sort of trying to show us sort of finding a way to make the improvisations kind of create dialogue that does seem a bit more spontaneous. That isn't just sort of drawing itself and stuff. That was a terrible description and stuff like that, but yeah, trying to. Yeah.
So, alright, well, try that
You can-
again. But yeah, so say something along the lines of like.
I'll
it's-
keep it short and simple.
Yeah, it's to try and create. It's to show the process behind creating spontaneous dialogue between different actors, whilst experimenting with the idea that all of the characters are developed individually, so that when you write the script later, you'll have a more natural idea of how these characters interact.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So try saying that in 3, 2.
Okay, so I guess the idea is doing this whole process in a way to try and develop natural sounding dialogue and stuff, and something that hopefully it works. So that's what we're going to aim towards, and hopefully in this show a bit of the creative process towards doing that is the plan. Cool.
Perfect. So that gives a nice intro to whatever video, and that's good because this needs to change the battery soon.
Cool.
I'm
Alright,
gonna
so
So
that's
is
got
this-
everything.
cut everywhere.